Hello, this is Joanne Brown. Can you guys hear me?
So we can, Joanne. Can you hear me?
Okay, I cannot hear you. I'm going to adjust my sound. Thank you, guys.
No, that might be me.
I can hear both of you just fine, so if that helps.
Okay, now I
does
can
help.
hear you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Good morning. This is Julie. I am having just a little trouble getting in. I should be in on my computer in 30 seconds.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. I think we're just waiting for one more person to show up until we have quorum. So that should give you some time.
Excellent.
All right, Madam Chair, it looks like we have quorum, which is 5 of us here. We'll confirm during roll call. I just wanted to confirm with our representative from law, Mr. Roberts, that if we have quorum to start the meeting, we can proceed and make motions and take votes, even if that number fluctuates throughout the meeting, as I know we have a few people that have to pop in and out today.
Yes, Mr. Secretary, that is correct. You need at least 5 to convene the meeting, which would be a quorum under our rules. But thereafter, even if you lose the technical quorum, vote can take place by just the majority who is left. So you stated it correctly.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roberts.
You're welcome.
With that, Madam Chair, we're ready when you are to start the meeting.
Excellent. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September 28th, 2023 Landmarks Commission meeting. It's nice to see everyone virtual today. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law in section 101.021 of the Codified Ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rule of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by roll call vote. Recusal from any case due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the beginning of the presentation. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, virtual attendants will use the raised hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raised hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking the raised hand icon again and muting your microphone. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activities are being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter submitted through proper channels have been considered. Proper channels for comments are sending an email to landmarks@clevelandohio.gov email address with a comment or a letter, calling and or leaving a message at 216-664-2532, or submitting a letter or dropping off comments at City Hall located at 601 Lakeside Avenue, Suite 519. Communications with members of this body must follow proper channels for consideration. Any comments received by the stated deadline are collected by Landmark staff and disseminated to the commission members prior to any scheduled meeting. Mr. Musson, would you like to review the rules?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, the meeting rules and procedures for the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. The chair will call each agenda item and then each applicant will be invited to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the commission in order to facilitate a smooth presentation. Once the presentation has concluded, the chair will ask Landmark staff to summarize design review committee recommendations and any public comments received. The deadline for public comments is noon on the Tuesday prior to any regularly scheduled Cleveland Landmarks Commission meeting. Any received comments are distributed to commission members prior to the meeting. Staff will also identify any members of the public present and scheduled to speak. Public comment is allowed at the discretion of the chair, and any individual providing public comment is permitted 2 minutes to speak to the agenda item in which they have an interest. The chair will then request a recommendation from staff. The commission will then begin deliberations and project review. Any commission member except the chair may make a motion at any point after an agenda item has been called.
We'd like to call September 28th, 2023 Landmarks Commission meeting to order. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Dryer?
Here.
Mr. Edmond? Councilmember Gray? Director Wong?
Here.
Mr. Sandbury? Mr. Strickland? Mr. Trasick? Dr. Williams?
Here.
And Ms. Trot.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have quorum.
Excellent.
In addition to the commission members, I'd just like to point out we have Kevin Roberts, who we heard from a moment ago, our representative from the Law Department, as well as Jessica Beam, Carl Brenges, and myself from the Landmarks Office, all present. And just one note on today's agenda, it was updated from its initial posting, so we reissued the amended agenda to remove case 23059, Geraci Slice Shop, and the Shaker Square Improvements Report. So we should be seeing both of those items in October, but they are not on today's amended agenda.
Thank you for that update. We'll then begin with our certificates of appropriateness. We'd like to call the first applicant forward to unmute your mic, announce yourself, and tell us about your project. The first applicant is located at 9113 Parmalee Avenue, Empire Senior Housing.
Yes, hello, I am Nick Slaughterbeck with Moody Nolan. And I am joined today, I believe, by Aaron Laffey from DeRue Landscape and Jessica Sheldon from Beacon. So 9113 Empire Avenue. The Empire School was first occupied in 1915. It is one of the few Jacobean revivalist pieces of architecture in the city, or actually in the state, let alone the city. In the 1920s, 2 wing additions were added to the building on both the northeast and northwest side of the building. In the 1950s, a gymnasium addition was also added to the west of the building. Next slide, please. The school serviced the Glenville neighborhood for close to 100 years, from 1915 to 2011. Originally a boys and girls school, then a junior high, and finally a technical school. The school became abandoned in 2011 and has since deteriorated significantly. It is located between Empire Avenue and Parmalee Avenue off of East 93rd Street, south of St. Clair Avenue. The St. Clair bus line and bus stops are noted on the visible plan currently being shown. Next slide, please. Our proposal for this project is to eliminate the 1950s gym addition completely and restore the old girls' entrance that has been hidden by that gym. The existing gymnasium does not match the architecture of the remainder of the school. Next slide, please. Here you can see the contextual imagery of the surrounding housing. South or north on Empire is residential, single-family residential, and same on the south on Parmalee. The school truly is a neighborhood school tucked in between several residences and several residential streets. Next slide, please. This slide shows the existing imagery and existing conditions of the building as they're seen today. There's actually, since these images have been taken, even more overgrowth has appeared on the Parmalee side of the building. To bring attention to the leftmost or rightmost images, you'll see that the existing elevator tower is crumbling and falling apart. As part of our proposal, we will be adding 2 new elevators and removing that existing tower. And then below that, you can see the boys' entrance as it stands today. The steps will need to be redone and replaced. And we assume, based on historical imagery, that the girls' entry that is currently hidden by the gymnasium matches this boys' entry, and we will be bringing that girls' entry back to what it once was. All the existing windows are currently boarded up and are not very visible, and the interior of the building is a health hazard, so we cannot get full documentation of the inside currently. We have had a couple investigations within, but until it is fully remediated, we'll not be able to get the full information on window details and the like. Next slide, please. The site plan shows our intention of the demolition. We are planning on demolishing that gymnasium and the associated playground as well. The site is covered in asphalt. We plan on removing the majority of that asphalt completely, as well as the 2 entry stairs that lead to the Parmalee elevation entry. Those will be closed and those stairs will become defunct. Next slide, please. Here we see the architectural site plan. We are planning on adding 29 new parking spaces, 2 of which will become handicap accessible, as well as a new entry. Once we remove the gymnasium, again, we're showing that new girls entry being restored, as well as a new stairs and V-shaped ramp down to the main entry. The first floor of the building sits about 4 feet below grade. As such, we also need, as you can see in the northeastern courtyard, has become a service courtyard. Currently, below that courtyard is a coal storage and boiler room, which will be infilled. It is not in very good condition currently. So we are planning on adding a service ramp, a generator, and transformer in that courtyard. And as we move to the opposite end of the auditorium space, the northwestern courtyard will become a resident patio, which we'll see more information on in the next slide, which if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. Here we see another version of the site plan prepared by Daru Landscape. As you can see, we're adding a new tree lawn and new sidewalk around the perimeter of the site. There is no existing tree lawn currently. We are planning on planting trees along it. The purpose of the sidewalk is actually create a walking path around the building for residents. The target of the new residence is actually going to be senior housing, senior focused. The idea is to make sure we're still activating that site, giving the seniors activity, but this is also a walking path that the entire community can use. As you can see on the eastern side of the site, there's more of a meandering path and a dog walk. That meandering path is a hope to give more activity than just a straight rectilinear loop. It is going to be more planted, more park-like. Next to that is a dog park, which will be resident only and access controlled. And then the parking lot. As we move along to the next slide, please. We'll zoom in onto the different areas in which we're improving on the site. For the main entry, again, we're talking about doing a V-shaped ramp down to the new entry, as well as a set of stairs. You can see in the lower left-hand corner what that elevation looks like. We're planning on new storefront for that new entry and replacing all of the windows throughout the entirety of the building with windows to match. This is a state historic preservation project, so we're trying as best as we can to abide by their standards. Existing brickwork on the elevations are planned to be cleaned and restored as best as possible. We are planning on adding new bike loops, trash or litter collectors, and a shelter for pickups. Next slide, please. Opposite the entry, again, we have this meandering path. We're planning on adding benches, and as well as both on the east and western side of the facade, we are planning on adding lighted bollards, which we'll talk about when we get to lighting. We're trying to make this a safe path, that even in the evenings, it could be walkable. The dog park is planned to be a gravel flooring, and again, access controlled for residents only. Next slide, please. Here we see the service courtyard highlighting the new wall that we are planning on building to match the existing as best as possible. We're trying to carry over the architectural features from that wall with this new one, and this is for the new elevator shafts. We're also planning on creating the service slope up for the trash pickup. Next slide, please. For the resident patio, we're planning on having a paved patio, well planted, with an aluminum fence to kind of close this off. The intention of this patio is not to make this a fully privatized patio, not something that as you're walking by, you can't see what's going on, but still to deter, let's say, ne'er-do-wells from any illicit activity as well. And then Aaron, if you could talk about the planting of the patio.
Hello, this is Erin LaFay from Daru. The planting, we will have a strong evergreen planting around the perimeter of the site, and then low maintenance perennials and a couple trees. Everything is low maintenance. It doesn't need to be shaped regularly, and nothing that is invasive.
Thank you, Aaron.
Mhm.
Next slide, please. These are more of the trees that Aaron was just talking about. Next slide. And some more of the site planting. Next slide. Thank you. Here we see our planned site lighting. Minimalist for the emergency lighting on the building entries. New dark bronze or black LED light poles for the parking lot, and indirect illuminated bollards around the perimeter of the walking path. Again, the idea of the indirect illumination is to reduce light pollution. Next slide, please. All right, again, the facade, we're looking at restoring this as best as we can, cleaning the brick, removing overgrowth, repairing, repointing where necessary. We want to bring this back to the that classic Jacobean revivalist aesthetic. Next slide. And these next couple slides are, again, just more imagery of what the proposal is, restoring these windows back to their original look as best as possible. Next slide. And restoring the entrances as well. Next slide. We're seeing the courtyard. These are the courtyard elevations. Again, they have the classical auditorium, large windows. And when we move into the plans, which I believe are the next slide, the plan interior of the building, 65 units throughout the building. First floor playing host to deliveries, the main office, as well as several one-bedroom units on the first floor, 16 to be exact. The main auditorium space is going to be retrofitted into a community fitness room, an area for light aerobic activity for the residents to maintain health and wellness. The lower portion below, planned south of that, is planned on being maintenance and the central power and electric utility room. Next slide. As we move up in the building, the original intent is to repurpose the library as units, and all of the classrooms are being refitted to be new single bedroom units. Next slide, please. And finally, as we reach the third floor, the existing cafeteria space is going to be retrofitted additionally with about 5 or 6 different units, one of which being a studio unit. One of the challenges of this project, as we were trying to fit units into classrooms, was also making sure that we had the proper lighting and proper scale of the units. Trash chutes will go down to that first floor and empty out into and be carried out through that service courtyard. And where the intention for all 3 floors was to keep the hallway, the east and west stairs, the boys and girls stairs, the auditorium as areas of historic preservation. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you for the presentation. We'll move on to Design Review Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Magnolia Wade Park East Boulevard Grantwood Allotments Design Review Committee on the 7th, or September 7th, and the committee recommended approval with conditions to return with any final details that get worked out. The committee did discuss the SHPA requirements for the windows and what those will look like, the site furnishings, focusing on a suggestion to include more benches around the site on the walking paths, and concerns with density and parking, use for the resident or community spaces inside, and also discuss the public engagement that was done with the community.
Thank you. Landmark staff review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This has been a long process. Remember when this started, when it went out for RFPs, I think this is going back before pre-pandemic. So this is great to see at this point that we have finally gotten to a point for the reuse of this building rather than having it demolished. We do support we would recommend the demolition of the gymnasium as a non-contributing. We know that they are following SHPO's standards for rehabilitation. So we know that they can't use SHPO funding for the demolition, so that's fine. It appears to be appropriate, the landscaping and the use of the area. We agree that the final window details should be submitted. But overall, we are very happy and in support of the project. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. We'll now open up the floor to the commission for questions. Oh, yep, for questions or comments. Who would like to start us off? I will begin. I think this is a very sensitive project. I do also support the demolition of the gym, and I feel landscaping is aligned with the use of the building and does not take away from the building itself. So I am supportive of new landscaping and lighting also. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question about the windows. If we go to the exterior rendering, that color rendering, that one. In this drawing, it shows the windows on like some of the first floor or second floor units have probably what were the original configuration, and then on the top floor there's a different configuration that looks a little more modern. I was just wondering if the windows are going to be consistent or they're going to maintain the windows as they are now. That's my question.
The intention of the window renovation is to replace all of the windows with new to match the existing. Sorry, let me rephrase that, because existing could be either or. The original. So the windows you're seeing, which have the muttons, the 9-panel windows, double hung, those will be the windows that we're trying our best to replace and emulate. Those 3-panel windows will be removed and replaced with the 9 panels.
Yeah, I think that would be preferable. So that's good to hear. I'm very supportive of this project. It's wonderful that this lovely building is being repurposed, and I'm very supportive also of removing the gym. So, yeah, this is something that it's been a long time coming. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Director Wong?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the demolition of the gym, and I think the building that is left provides really great symmetry. That's very visually pleasing. I mostly have questions about the public realm. So I'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about the tree plan and tree preservation, if any, and what new trees there might be on the site. And I apologize if I missed that part of the discussion earlier.
Would the applicant like to respond to that?
I had a little difficulty hearing that. I just want to make sure I understood correctly. Is the question about the existing trees versus new planting?
Correct. Can you hear me better now?
Slightly. Erin, do you want to speak on that?
Sure, this is Erin LaFay. Most of the trees around the site were scrubby, invasive trees, other than the big London plane that's on Parmalee, right in the smack center of the building. And that tree, we will be putting tree protection around and designing around that tree. All the other trees, there is one existing tree on the perimeter of the west side. It's actually on the neighboring property site, but we'll still do tree protection around the roots so as construction doesn't hurt the roots of that tree. And then we'll be planting appropriate trees for underneath the overhead lines on the tree lawn, and then native trees around the rest of the site.
Great, thank you. Madam Chair, I have another question, and can everyone hear me better now? Okay, excellent. My question is about the bike rack fixture. I see that you have a U-shaped bike rack selected, and I wanted to comment that I do think that we want to make sure those bike racks are able to fit e-bikes, as more and more people are using different sized e-bikes, especially the larger ones. And so I wanted to make a comment to select one that might work for all types of bike sizes. Thank you.
That is definitely something we will look into to confirm that they will work for all bikes.
Overall, my last comment is I'm really happy to see this move forward. I want to commend our asset redevelopment strategists over in community development, as well as landmark staff who are continuing to help this project proceed. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Wong. Mr. Dryer?
Yeah, this is obviously a great project, and I wish we had more of them coming down like this. I'm going to make the most minor comment that I could figure out how to make, but it sticks out to me. When you redo the girls' entrance, if you could make sure that the stairs match the stairs on the boys' entrance. The drawing has them looking different. So and the ones at the boys' entrance are very, very nice. And I don't know what you call them, but they're kind of like the, I don't know. But so anyway, that's my comment.
Yeah, and that I think this is just a drawing error. The intent is for them both to match.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Dryer. Ms. Williams?
Madam Chair, I think this is a wonderful project. I want to start by saying that. Just had a quick comment, maybe question, because I heard our presenter say that the building had deteriorated significantly, but and you've not been able to see all of the interior of the complex because of that deterioration. I guess I'm wondering, what if the deterioration is so great that it would prevent the forward movement of the plan that you've outlined today? Do you have any idea what kinds of challenges await you once you're able to see the entire interior of the school?
We plan on beginning remediation efforts here in the coming months. The current issue, there are some areas with wood flooring that are in rough shape. The floors appear to be concrete deck, and the roof, and structurally it seems rather sound in there. The big issue going in is not so much the structural soundness, it is the presence of asbestos, black mold. Just about every fungus under the sun is in there. Believe me when I say photos inside look like a horror movie. It is truly terrifying. So we're not anticipating any major structural issues so much as we are health hazards that we're planning on remediating.
Anything else, Ms. Williams?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Mr. Musson?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out that this project will require two motions. Case 23-22 is for the demolition of the gymnasium, and then case 23-23 is for the actual renovation redevelopment of the property. So we will need, when someone makes a motion, we'll need two separate ones.
Thank you for that reminder. Not seeing any additional questions or comments, would someone like to make a motion on the demolition? Mr. Dryer? Mr. Dryer, if you're talking, I believe you might be muted.
That's right, I am muted. Thanks. I make the motion to approve the demolition of the gym.
Excellent. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Director Wong,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Would someone like to make a motion on the remaining proposal for the building and site improvements?
I move that we approve as presented.
Would you consider adding the 2 recommendations to confirm that the bike rack works with all sizes of bikes, inclusive of e-bikes, and confirming that the 2 stairs will match on both sides?
Yes, I do. Yes.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second Director Wong.
Thank you for the second, Director Wong. Any further discussion? Mr. Dryer?
Do we want to, I may have missed this, but do we want to add a condition that they come back for the windows?
We could.
Or at least require them to go to staff?
So submit the final window details to staff?
Right.
Ms. Anderson, do you, Director Wong, are you good with that addition?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dryer. So we'll add that as a condition to submit the final window details to staff for review. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Musson, please call roll and announce the results.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Director Wong,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously. And as we move into our next agenda item, I just wanted to note that Mr. Sandberry has now joined us.
Excellent, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Sandberry. All right, well then, good luck with your project.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next applicant located at 1435 East Boulevard, Park Place Apartments.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Tomas Alvarez. I am with Nottingham Studios. We are the architect of record for this project. We're located in Chicago. We also have Adam Lisak with our team. He's on the call. And if you all don't mind, I know that your time is quite valuable, so I will jump right into it. Wonderful. This project, first of all, I would like to begin by giving a short description of the development team. The development team is located in California. It's the Transcend Group. They've done a lot of projects in the state of Ohio as the Transcend Group, and previously called Preservation Partners. So not only Nottingham Studios, the architect, but the Transcend Group are quite familiar with the requirements from QAP through local requirements. But one of the things that we always like to make clear when we give presentations is that the Transcend Group, their model revolves around purchasing distressed properties and improving primarily the interior of the units in order to improve the lifestyle of the tenants. So, and I bring this up because I wanted to make sure that the committee is aware that the focus of the design team and the development team is to improve the interiors primarily. That being said, I think we can jump into this. Can we please go to the next slide? Park Place Apartments was built in 1965, designed by Robert P. Madison, a native of Cleveland. It's located in the intersection of Way Park Avenue and East Boulevard. It is a total of 126 units, which the design is brutalist architecture, and it revolves around building number 1. If you look at the center of this plan, this map, building number 1 is a serpentine design. It's this wavy, very, very interesting, and I'm sure quite difficult to build building. Buildings 2, 3, and 4 are rather similar. 3 and 4 are 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Building 2, all the way to the right, are 2 and 3 bedroom townhomes. Next slide, please. We wanted to provide some existing conditions. We wanted to ensure that we covered the exterior improvements that we are planning to make. So if you're looking at the bottom right photograph, that is the east side of the property. The majority of the improvements, the exterior improvements to the site, will be taking place on the parking lot side. On the top right, and perhaps I was planning to speak to this later on in the presentation, but in the top center and the top right, you see a fence that is located along the west side of the property, which faces the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. That is one of the comments that we have from the design committee. They made the suggestion that it would be beneficial for the overall improvement of the site, the project, to perhaps remove this fence. The idea was to, and I'm quoting here, the suggestions to jumpstart the use of that side. The cultural gardens are such a beautiful part that the tenants should, in theory, they should have access to. So that fence is really not doing much of it's not doing much for security. After speaking with the development team and sharing the concerns and suggestions from the design committee, it has been added to the scope of work to remove the fence and also to provide more seating areas and more gathering areas on the west side of the project facing the gardens. And we wanted to, I did not update this presentation because I wanted to bring this up. I wanted to discuss the process of going from what we presented to the design committee, their suggestions, the development team accepting every suggestion and moving on to revising the scope of work, which has already been relayed to the general contractor, which is Walsh Construction. Next slide, please. Robert P. Madison, as I mentioned earlier, is a native of Cleveland, but if you wouldn't mind, I would like to go back in one slide and discuss the improvements to the exterior of the building, because I believe these are some good photographs in the top row. When it comes to the masonry, the exterior masonry of the building, the repairs will be minimal. It will be selective repairs throughout. Any tuck pointing that needs to be addressed will be addressed. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, our focus is in the interior, improving the units, which are in rather bad shape. Also, the balconies, the balcony frames, railing frames will remain, and the panels will be replaced with architectural panels and will also meet code. The playground in the bottom left will be entirely replaced. All exterior amenities will be made accessible. And if you take a look at the bottom right photograph, the Serpentine building number 1, that is where we have discussed and been approved by the state of Ohio, by OFA, to locate all the accessible units. So that all the amenities, all the exterior amenities will have an accessible path from building number 1. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We have a site plan here, and the reason we wanted to share this site plan with the committee is because we wanted to highlight the improvements that will be made on the east side of the site plan, which is the parking lot. The parking lot will be restriped and again, selective repairs throughout. New trash enclosures will be installed and built. And also at building number 1, an accessible ramp will be added in order to provide wheelchair access to it. So what you see in that light blue color is the concrete, the minimum amount of concrete that will be redone in order to comply with accessibility requirements. The dashed line in purple are the accessible path to the amenities. And also, we will get to a different slide where we'll further explain the primary areas of improvement from an exterior perspective. Please, next slide. Building number 1, which is the primary entry to building number 1, is the bottom left plan. It's an enlarged plan. The ramp will provide access to the main level. From then on, there will be an inclined lift for wheelchairs, allowing tenants to access any floor within the building. The units are distributed throughout, and we are enlarging the vestibule in order to comply with accessibility requirements. All the doors will be on actuators. The management office, which is the top right enlarged plan, we are relocating it from what you see in the left plan, the laundry room. That is where the management office currently is. We want to provide easier access to all the tenants from all 4 buildings. So we are relocating it to an existing security building that is in the north side of the building, on the north side of the site. So we're also moving the mail room. It's going to be an exterior mail area covered, and the management office will be, again, improved in all aspects. The equipment has the playground equipment will be new, and also the playground surface, sitting area, bench, and again, access to it will be accessible. Next slide, please. There are a significant amount of existing trees that will all be protected during construction. In addition, shrubs and trees will be, supplemental shrubs and trees will be added. This particular, this landscape plan is good to show because the east side, which is the top of your screen, is the area that the design committee suggested that is activated for the tenant. So again, the fence along East Boulevard will be removed, providing access to the park, to the gardens, and also new benches will be provided at that large sitting area where the existing shrubs note is pointing to. Next slide, please. The exterior elevations, our plan are to replace all the exterior railings to match existing. Again, minor modifications in order to comply with code. Selective repairs to the masonry. And again, the architectural panels will be replaced in the balcony railings. The frames of the railings, the balcony railings will remain and will be refinished, all to match existing colors. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I believe I discussed the landscape plan earlier. Next slide, please. These are some renderings, although the building is existing, showing both views are from East Boulevard. And so this shows that the existing color is to remain. If next slide, I'd like to get into, okay, so this shows some of the fixtures that will be installed, right? There will be a bench, a sitting area in front of every building entry. And that is not a requirement, but one of the non-mandatory OFA items that the development team selected to provide. Sitting areas, receptacles, mailboxes will be surface mounted in the new mail area, which will have a roof over it. Next slide, please. One of the primary focuses for this project was energy conservation. And I know that this perhaps is not the right place to discuss it, but the plumbing fixtures for every unit are higher performance than water sense or any other typical requirements in affordable housing. These will be, sorry, my dog is making noises. The plumbing fixtures will be high performance. All of the mechanical equipment has recently been replaced for high efficiency equipment. And the focus here is going to be the windows. The windows have multiple variations in sizes. And what the development team and the design team have decided to do is to reconfigure the large openings to provide and replace them with more standard size windows. For example, some of these windows are in today's window industry would technically need to be custom because of their overall length. Some of these triple sliders simply don't exist in the overall 9 feet 8. So what we are proposing to do is to replace them with standard sizes for the maintenance team to be able to replace them if any of the windows get broken, right? Instead of boarding up and opening for several months until a new window comes in, it can be replaced with a standard size window. Now, one of the questions that the design committee brought up during their questions portion of the presentation was revolved around the windows. What type of windows? We went back and looked at the P&A, and it was confirmed that the windows are vinyl. Because the Brule is designed and because it was built in 1965, I believe that it was, at least we assumed that the windows were aluminum. And I believe that the design committee had assumed the same. However, after reviewing that information, they are vinyl. We are proposing to replace them with insulated vinyl windows, and the color will match. So it's one could call it black, one could call it dark bronze. The sliding doors will also be replaced. Next slide, please. Signage will be replaced throughout. We believe that it is important that every building, not only every unit, but every building is for security and for life safety reasons, clearly noted with the proper signage. So all the units, obviously, inside of the buildings 1, 3, and 4 will receive unit signage in the interior. Building number 2 to the right are the townhomes, so they will receive exterior signage, same design, different material. At the bottom left, that is the entry into building number 1, the building that will have an accessible entry. So this is where that storefront that you see in the bottom left will be pushed out. So the roof will be extended and that wall will be pushed out in order to meet accessibility requirements, and there will be a ramp going from grade level to the elevation of that door. Next slide, please. Okay, you see the breezeways. The railing will be replaced entirely. And also any deficient metal will also be replaced or repaired. Everything will be, all the metal will be refinished to match, to bring it back to its previous state. Lighting is an important aspect of the projects that we work on with this developer, the Transcend Group. We always run photometrics for exterior for the site in order to provide a little bit more safety. So all the light fixtures throughout will be replaced. In the balconies, every balcony has its own light fixture. And then we also have this wall packs throughout. Next slide, please. Okay. I believe that is all that I have. If you don't mind, please give me a second to look at my notes and make sure that I did not miss any important aspect. Oh, I think I covered everything, but if it's okay, I just wanted to reiterate because I know that it is it is very important for our team and the development team to emphasize that our focus is on the interior of the units. Some of these units are not in living conditions. And so that is why the bulk of the budget is going to the units. So that is all I have. I'm ready for questions.
Excellent. Thank you for the presentation. We'll first move to Design Review Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Magnolia Wade Park East Boulevard Grantwood Allotments Design Review Committee on September 21st. They were in support of the changes to the building and recommended approval for the building with, as mentioned, the focus on the western side of the property that faces into the cultural gardens. They discussed the phased construction that's planned and the impact to the existing tenants, as well as the security and access for the site, the fence and access there, as well as the treatment of the non-standard window openings.
Excellent. Thank you for that summary. Landmark staff review comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In reviewing the information submitted by the applicant, Landmark staff is generally supportive of this project, and we're happy to see some investment in these buildings. While they may be outside of the historic district's architectural period of significance, they are certainly significant. As Mr. Alvarez stated, the building was designed by Robert P. Madison, a prominent local architect who just turned 100 a few months ago. Staff did have some questions regarding the specific product line and color of the replacement windows and doors, so we'd like to see that information and on a cut sheet, essentially. We would also like some more information about where the air conditioning units will be installed and how they'll look once they are installed. We were also curious if there would be uniform window treatments for each unit or if that would be left to the tenant. And then finally, yesterday, Councilman Conwell stopped into the Landmarks office to discuss cases we're hearing today in his ward. He said that he's generally supportive of the improvements of this unique building, but he said that he hasn't seen anything about this project and would like to have a conversation with the new owners. So the councilman requests that the applicants reach out to him, and I'm happy to share his contact info after the meeting if you are interested, Mr. Alvarez.
Of course, of course.
Thank you for those comments. We will then open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Who would like to start us off? Ms. Williams.
Morning.
Good morning. Just want to say that I absolutely love this building. I'm not familiar with all the architectural terms, so I hear brutalist and concrete urban, but maybe that's what makes it brutal. But I just think it's a beautiful building, especially the part that faces East Boulevard. And certainly I'm happy, this is a comment, to see the complex itself getting this kind of attention in the lifetime of Mr. Robert Prince Madison, the native Clevelander who just turned 100. I wanted to ask, however, about the one of the comments, I believe, from Design Review Committee about the tenant impact and sort of the phased improvements. But can you speak to the occupancy level now? And just generally, I know you said some of the units are not suitable right now for residents to reside in, but just the occupancy level now, if you have that information available, and again, just thinking about the impact on the current tenants as you make these improvements.
Sure, of course. So as of a few weeks ago, occupancy was at 97%. So when I say that some of these units are not in an acceptable livable conditions, there are tenants living in those units. And which is why the Transcend Group, the development team, buys these properties and spends all this money inside of the units in order to provide a better living space for families and seniors, which is their primary focus. Now, the way the Transcend Group works is they do a rolling move in, move out. So what they do is they take 5 to 6 units, which what they call the batch. They take 5 to 6 units and they relocate the tenants, and whether it's a family or a single person, into a hotel. They provide the entire, the relocation. They provide all the services. These units usually get turned entirely renovated in 10 business days. And then the development team provides the relocation back into the units. So the tenant is never out for a long period of time. Now, now I believe that one of the comments, and Jessica, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of the comments from the design committee when we talked about phases was that when we had the presentation with the design committee, we talked about activating the west side, the side facing the gardens at a later time if, you know, the budget allowed it. Now, after discussing it with ownership, with the development team, they have agreed to just go ahead and find a way to do it upfront, take care of the fence, add more sitting areas, and make sure that that area is available and accessible to the tenants, the area facing the park, the gardens. And I'm sorry, Ms. Williams, did I answer your question?
You did indeed, especially as it relates to the amount of time that the current tenants might be inconvenienced or displaced, that it is a relatively short period of time. And I was certainly concerned about that, but thank you very much for answering the question.
Now, if you don't mind, I'll expand on it a tiny bit more. Now, the development team and the construction team, the goal is to only take the unit for 1 week. Now, that's not always doable. It's not always feasible. So that's why we let the tenants know that it may be 10 business days, 2 weeks, and we work around the schedule to help them move out, help them move in. The accessible units, the 504 mobility units, those two do take more time simply because of all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing work that goes into those units. They get completely reconfigured. So those units tend to be up to 3 weeks.
Thank you for that explanation. We appreciate it. We'll move on to Ms. Anderson's questions or comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions. One is regarding the windows. In the past, fellow Commissioner, Commissioner Strickland would comment that the black vinyl or the dark vinyl tended to warp. And I don't know if that's warping in the sun. I don't know that much about it, but I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know if that's the case, if that's why it tends to warp, and you know, if being that a lot of these windows are recessed and a lot of the east side of the building, if I recall correctly, is shaded, that might not be a huge issue, but I just wanted to mention that and see if the applicant has done any investigation on the durability of those the black vinyl windows in this climate.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, I believe you said you had 2 questions. Is that?
Yes, that's my first question. The second question is regarding the fence, and it appears to be a wrought iron fence that predates the building, maybe. It just looks like an older style fence. And I was wondering if part of the reason it was there is so that it keeps the property from being like a pedestrian shortcut cut through. You know, I was just wondering if that was analyzed as part of the, you know, the ramifications of removing the fence. So yeah, those are my 2 questions.
Sure thing. I have to say that they're both tough questions. So let me take
Sorry.
It's okay. Let me take a stab at this. Let's start with the windows. So the windows, you are correct. You're 100% correct, and it is a fair concern when it comes to dark windows, whether it's dark bronze or vinyl or dark or black vinyl windows. Vinyl windows did used to work simply because the technology wasn't there. However, that is no longer an issue, and I can say that with certainty. These windows are insulated, the insulated glass panels, and the frame itself is thermally broken. There's sweeps, therefore the heat that enters the frame of the window is able to escape So there's always airflow going through the frame of the window. That limits the amount of heat that's trapped and warp the window. So that is no longer a concern. And I think I can confidently say that most designers would not specify dark windows if that was still the case. But one of the comments that was just given to us earlier is that the committee would like to see some cut sheets for the windows, some product data for the windows. So we're more than happy to provide those. Now moving on to the fence. The fence is actually not original. It's an aluminum window, fence, and it's in bad shape. It's very thin, it's very flimsy, and there are gates, existing gates that allow people to come in and out. So using it as a shortcut, it can be used as a shortcut with the fence. But personally, there was many conversations regarding this fence. Originally, it was we discussed replacing it with wrought iron because again, it's a very flimsy aluminum fence. Repairing it, repairing the panels that are deficient, and removing it. We had many conversations. In our drawings, we removed it, we added it back in, we changed the notes. But the design committee suggested removing it, and we are more than happy to do that. Did I answer your questions, Ms. Anderson?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Anderson. I guess I'll make my comments next. I mean, I do appreciate that this building is being restored. It is a building that is very special for Mr. Madison and his to recognize the significance he's had in the city of Cleveland. My questions relate to the windows, similar to what Ms. Anderson mentioned. Vinyl windows life expectancy is 20 to 40 years, and of darker colors that is closer to the 20 years than the 40. Have you explored a composite fiberglass window for here?
We did, and we do have an allowance in the budget to upgrade the windows. So it does remain an option.
I think my personal preference would go to fiberglass, and because of the durability and the life expectancy, you're making obviously a significant investment in this building, and we want to make it worth your while and for a long period of time. So my personal recommendation would be to explore the fiberglass composite windows for the durability and life expectancy. You had mentioned your renderings show Carl, do you mind going to the rendering that was part of the package? Right there. Is that the only rendering? I think it is.
There is another slide with photographs, if that's what you're referring to.
No, this is good. In this rendering, it appears that your parapet fascia board and your railing panels appear to be in a black or gray color, but you had stated that they will match the existing color, which appears to match the lighter masonry color. Can you clarify which direction you're going?
Yep. This rendering here is when we were doing a study for different colors for the metal, not only for the fascia, but also for the balconies. So I believe, personally, I just want to be completely transparent that we should have added a different rendering instead of this one. But yeah, the colors are intended to match existing.
Okay, so that will be for the overhang fascia panel and the railing panels.
Correct.
And then for the windows, you also stated in that rendering, it appears that they were white windows, but you have stated they will match the existing black or dark bronze color.
Correct.
And the infill aluminum panel will be in the dark bronze color also?
Yeah, it will match the window. It will be the infill insulated aluminum panel. The windows will come like that from the manufacturer, so it will match.
Okay. For anyone who makes a motion, I think we should just state that for the record so that we're all clear, since there is some discrepancy between the rendering that was submitted and what is being discussed, which I do support everything that you have stated, matching the existing details as much as possible, color-wise, and then, finally, exploring the composite fiberglass window, because I think that will really be a worthwhile investment.
I believe I actually have a meeting with the development team for a different project in just about 22 minutes. So I can discuss this, and I am certain that the development team can find a way to fund the upgraded windows.
Excellent. Well, overall, I'm in support of the project. Any other questions or comments from the commission, or would someone like to put forward a motion?
This is Michelle. I move that we approve as presented with the addition of making sure that the fascia panel and the balcony panels are the matching color, and that the applicant take serious consideration of using the fiberglass window instead of the vinyl.
Would you consider adding the requirements that they submit the final door and window material cut sheets to staff for their review, along with the AC locations for staff review?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Anderson. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Mike Sandberry.
Thank you, Mr. Sandberry. Any further discussion? All right, not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll and announce the results.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Dryer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray. Maybe she's not here yet. Director Wong.
Yes.
Mr. Sandberry.
Yes.
Dr. Williams.
Yes.
And Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing your project move forward.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Madam
move
Chair,
on to-
unfortunately, I need to leave the meeting, so I just wanted to state that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Wong, for letting us know.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question, please, about recusals. I am familiar with the Wade House Community Engagement Center idea. I serve on the Neighborhood Advisory Council for Case Western Reserve University. Would I then be required to recuse myself?
I will ask our Mr. Roberts, can you please comment on that? Mr. Roberts, if you're speaking, you are on mute.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and Dr. Anderson. I wouldn't indicate that you're required to. You don't have, apparently you don't have any, direct interest, but in the abundance of caution and with the eye toward whether there's an appearance of conflict, and perhaps you're even thinking this, maybe it's best to seek a recusal or to step out. But requirement, no.
Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Right, so Ms. Williams, will you maintain in the review of this case, or are you recusing yourself?
I'd like to hear the discussion, but I think I should recuse myself.
Okay.
That makes sense. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, then we will move on to our next applicant, located at 11310 Wade Park Avenue, the Wade House Community Engagement Center.
Great. Thank you, everyone. My name's Joanne Brown. I'm Assistant Director of Planning, Design, and Construction here at the university, and I'm joined with my colleagues, Wendy Harbaugh from Planning, Design, and Construction, as well as Julian Rogers, who is with our local government and community relations team. Next slide. Okay, this just gives an overall vicinity map, a location. The red star is the space that we're looking at today, and this is on our northern edge. Next slide. This is actually an aerial that shows you exactly where the house is along Wade Park. Former house, former church, now that we are converting into a community engagement center. Next slide. So we have been before you before. Some of the items that we've modified or changed significantly, you'll notice on the front of this, there is a 2-story element. And what we've done is we've removed the top enclosed porch. You'll see some photographs which show that that was not original to the structure. We are looking to, or we have already demoed a garage that was decomposing. We did salvage the brick from that. We do have a little work that we're working on with the city regarding the driveway that you see on the right, or I'm sorry, on the left of the structure is actually a brick paved former portion of East 14th. So we are working to get that vacated, and we are also working towards a lot consolidation. The exterior of the structure, we will go into a little detail exactly what we're doing, but basically new roof, new windows, the elimination of that upper enclosed porch area, as well as amenities of adding ADA accessibility and a parking lot, since this is now becoming more of a community entity. Next slide. Here's some of the photos I was talking about. You can see on the right, there's a 1980s. It shows that element. On the left, in the 60s, you can see where it is not there. You can very clearly see that dormer and that roof area. And we are looking to restore the building back to more of its original context. Next slide. This is just showing that driveway, that area that used to be 114th. We do plan on still utilizing it to access some new parking. We're also showing an existing retaining wall that's going to remain, as well as just some fencing that will remain. In the background of these two buildings, you see the residence hall on the right, Stephanie Tubbs Jones. That's a newer building that the university constructed. And then on the left, next to that, you see the house that currently is on the corner of 115th and Wade Park. Next slide, please. This simply shows the parcels right now, the 2 parcels that are within the red are owned by the university, as well as the property directly across the 114th Place street. And then on the left side, that corner parcel is owned by the university. Mather Park is, and that parking lot is actually part of the music school. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to let Wendy Harbaugh talk a little more about the improvements for the site at this time. Are you there, Wendy? You might be on mute. Sorry. Okay. I think we're still having a little issue. Wendy, are you on mute?
I'm here.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay. For this review, we're looking for a final approval. The prior we had, I believe, a site concept. We did rearrange the parking lot to maintain more of the grass area and reduce the amount of pavement. The new parking lot configuration pulls off of the vacated East 114th Place brick road. And we've created a planting area between the parking lot and the parking area and the back of the existing building. There's a a swale there for drainage, adding a accessible sidewalk and access to a ramp and stair deck structure off the back that will go into further detail, and then replacing all of the plantings directly at the perimeter of the building and cleaning up the rest of the property and plantings along the perimeter. Next slide. Here is the line drawing with the revisions that we are making. In addition, will be restructuring the front step and stoop. That has failed, but the main approach to the house is still maintained, so it'll look the same from the front. Next slide. This is the extent of the addition for the accessible ramp. It's more of a deck style ramp with a mahogany colored PVC composite decking. This is fade resistant, so it will keep that deep color that we like. And then the fence is a black metal picket that is, the guard and the rail is a black picket that is consistent with the existing fences that are along the property and the drive of our adjacent properties. Next slide. Landscaping plans. This is similar to what we had planted or had presented in the for the conceptual review, utilizing boxwood and native flowering plants and hydrangeas that are consistent with a residential neighborhood, and the other houses along East or Wade Park Avenue. Next slide. We will be adding some site lighting in the back to light the back area of the house. It consists of 2 pole lamps. There's a cut sheet to follow this, but this drawing is showing the light foot candles that they will cast in the back. Next slide. The site post lighting is shown on the top left. There be 12-foot high square poles, black with the fixture shown. And in addition to the pole lights in the back, we will have some of the WSQ LED, the top fixture in color bronze to better match the brick color, and those are placed around the building. And there, we can see those on a elevation that's further within the presentation. And then the front porch originally had sconces, and we will be they're no longer there, but you can tell that they were there. So we will be installing this residential style sconce on each side of the front door. Next slide. So proposed exterior improvements, just to reiterate what Joanne had said, we're removing the upper portion of the enclosure on the roof deck. That will be completely removed. The roof restored. We'll remove the door onto that upper roof, and we'll shingle over that with shakes to match the existing, and paint all the shakes. New trim boards, new gutters and downspouts, color to match the existing, which is brown. We believe that to be the original color. Replace all the windows with metal clad wood windows. They will all be double hung with an equal sash configuration, and then restore the porch trim, matching the existing white color. That porch structure, the roof structure will likely need to be completely replaced, but we will replace it to match the existing and then add new landscaping. Next slide. The same work scope basically on the rear, and the dash box indicates where the new accessible ramp will be installed. Next slide. This is a change from the original presentation, but we have proposed to remove the existing porch or cover above that door, and we will also be removing both doors and replacing with windows and bricking it into to the size of the new window. After we programmed and finished planning the interior, it was determined that we do not need these doors, so we are eliminating them and replacing them with windows. We will also remove the stone staircase and install landscaping in those. Both doors have a similar stair to them. So it'll be the same approach. Next slide. This is the west facade, more of the same. We'll be replacing all the windows, the roof, and constructing the rear ramp and access. Next slide. Here's a close-up of the front porch. It's a little wobbly currently, so we'll be removing and then restructuring underneath and replacing the stones back in and the tile. We'll match that if we can't reuse it. Our plan is to reuse the front door, refurbish it if possible. If not, we will replace with similar. There's potentially some structural issues with the door, but we will paint that in the case blue, like the same blue as on the footer bar. That's our new blue. And then you can note where the sconces originally were, and we'll replace those with the lantern sconce. Next slide. Some line drawings indicating, the new plan. The east elevation in the bottom right indicates the window sizes that we have. The one towards the front of the house is a smaller window. That window is occurring in the new bathroom. And then the one towards the back of the house, we'll just replace that and install a window, the same configuration as the adjacent window. It's in the same room. Next slide. Some more showing these are the hidden elevations at the turns. You can see that the new doors that are going in, there'll be a residential style with a full light similar to what we have at the front porch. And you can see the rail configuration. This is what our proposed floor plans consists of a multi-room pre-function. The first floor is primarily used for community engagement activities and functions. That will be the more public space. The second floor will be reserved predominantly for use by case staff, and we will have full-time employees in this building.
I would just like to add, if we could go back to that slide. Thank you. Just the amount of entries into the building. So we have the front entry off of Wade Park, which we're maintaining. We do see the rear of the building as being also a primary entry for our staff, as well as public and if there's any events taking place outside. And there are 2 doors available off that space. So the doors we're removing from the left side of the building. You can see in the lower left-hand corner, we have an ADA restroom, which we're constructing to meet code requirements, has the one. And then we do have a little kitchenette. And so we want to limit access into the building as well as limit any issues, because that driveway, that area of West 14th Street, 114th Street, will have traffic coming and going. So we're making that also a safer area. Just wanted to add that. Next slide.
Materials that we have selected, Pella Reserve is what we will install window types with a brown aluminum clad on the exterior, double hung. These indicate the grills, but we will not have grills like that photo indicates. Next slide. The roofing is more of a brown dimensional shingle. You do see quite a bit of the roof from the front. So we thought this would be a good complement to the brick. Next slide. And then here's the rendering with the adjusted window color. And we are restoring the sills is our intent too. And we'll clean up all the, around the perimeter of the house. Next slide. And that's the final rendering of the front with blue door. And I don't think I mentioned, but we are restoring that half round leaded glass window. It's the only one. It's still completely intact, just needs to be restored and the lead canes replaced. And we will install a storm panel over top of it to protect it from future damage. Next slide. And then here's some interior renovations of the building. We do intend to keep it more of a residential feel inside with wood trim and wood doors, that more of a residential style, and crown molding.
I'd like to note one more thing. If we could go back 2 slides to the front, there you go. That upper porch that we removed, we are restoring that railing with the brick and the stone, and that is not a conducive height when we restore it to be able to utilize that as open space. That was one of the areas we were talking about, possibly creating a little outside porch. Because that it does not meet code for railing heights, there will not be access onto that roof. We are just installing a window in the former door location right above there. I just wanted that to clarify that. Thank you.
Right, thank you for the presentation. We will move on to then Design Review Committee recommendations.
Madam Chair, this project was reviewed by the Magnolia Wade Park East Boulevard Grantwood Allotments Design Review Committee on September 21st. The committee recommended approval for the project with a consideration for retaining the door overhang on the side of the house and moving that to a new door on the rear of the house, just to retain that architectural element. They did discuss the front door, the railing for the front door, as well as the leaded glass and the double hung windows where there are currently cottage thatch windows.
Thank you. Landmark staff recommendations and review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Landmarks is in agreement with the local committee. We feel that the windows should keep their existing configuration, so the cottage sash. To use the cottage sash on the west facade to match the north facade for some continuity on the first floor. There are a couple of other cottage sash on the front that they're changing as well. So we think this should all be cottage sash here on the first floor. The double hung on the other areas where it already exists would be good. The railing height and code, because you're in a historic district, I think you're grandfathered in. So if there's that consideration for use of that area up there, you would not, I don't believe you would need to raise the level unless you're not feeling comfortable with the safety. Future, I believe there is a chain link fence on the west side of the property. I'm wondering if that's going to be removed as a part of this, or is that a future phase? And otherwise, feel that this is a great outcome for this building as well to be used in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll address some of those elements. The chain link fence would be a future phase with whatever might happen with the Cornell parcel that the university owns. Regarding the use of that porch area, from a safety standpoint, it is not the desire of the university to activate that. We do anticipate kind of the trade-off is the more active space that we have on the ground. And we have more of that now with the reconfiguration of the parking lot. And if we could go to the rear of the building, I don't think we have a rendering of it, but maybe one of the photographs. So the thought was, actually, next slide might be a little more beneficial. Okay, this is fine, but you can see the inset area in the center of the structure here. And on both the right and the left side is where we have doors that enter in from the back or the rear. The thought and the discussion was if we could take the kind of that decorative door pediment in white from the side and relocate it, we would consider that. We do feel that there is a high possibility that once we start to remove that element, that it will literally fall apart in pieces. So if that happens, we would not be able to relocate it. Otherwise, we would look at studying over one of those two doors to relocate that element, just for clarity. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. We will open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Who would like to start us off? Mr. Sandberry.
Hey, first of all, I think the side doors, I'm okay with that, but I would like to see, or I guess have a little more clarification on how you're infilling those openings. Is the window going to be the same size as the other windows adjacent, or are you filling in the entire door depth?
Right.
Like, okay, sorry. I'll let you answer that.
Right. So on the lower right-hand corner on that east elevation, you'll see the door, what I'm going to say, the door closest to the new parking, that, or I'm sorry, the window in the door location, that window would be the same width. It would be the same depth as the adjacent windows. And then that small area below it would be infilled with existing brick. We did salvage brick from the demo of the garage that matches the house. What I'm going to say more of that front window, that is a little smaller due to the fact that it is a public restroom and just for visibility into the space. And that would also be infilled with salvaged brick.
And are you toothing the brick into the existing opening, or is there going to be a joint that shows where the original door opening was? This might get too detailed.
At this time, I don't think we've gotten that far into it. If there is a recommendation, we would certainly take that from the board.
I would like to see evidence that a door existed there previously, whether that's to recess the brick about an inch or half an inch to give more of a shadow line there, or if the easiest thing for you to do is to keep a mortar joint there with the outline of the door, something that still shows that there was an opening there. You filled that in, but it's appropriate change to the building.
We can do that.
Additionally, I do have some issues with the windows. I think the design review board and the staff have already called those out. One of the things I do want to ask, in the detailed photo of the front stoop, Carl, if you can go to that. The photograph, not the rendering, sorry. Keep going. That one. That window looks like it's a stained glass or something. Is that correct?
It actually is a vinyl applied to the interior.
Oh,
those go up the stairs.
Okay, so it's not an original feature.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sandberry. Other questions and comments from the commission? Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am so happy to see you moving forward with the renovation of this building. A few years ago, we had a site visit for consideration for demolition. So it's really nice to see that this building will be preserved and reused. And it looks like you're going to be making some wonderful improvements to the building. You know, I support the removal of that second floor area. I am in agreement with the recommendations from the local design review committee and Commissioner Sandberry's recommendations. Yeah, I'm very supportive, but overall, I'm very supportive of this project.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I would agree with all comments made. I have support, and I really want to commend the owner for really maintaining your commitment to this building and restoring it. I think it's a wonderful building and will be a wonderful addition to your campus. And I'm in support of the renovations that are being proposed. With that being said, Ranjit.
Just a quick question looking at the photos. Are this still painted? Are those being cleaned? What's the treatment for the stonework going to be on that?
The intent is to restore the original stone finish, to remove the paint. They are all painted currently.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions or comments from the commission, or would someone like to put forward a motion? Ms. Anderson, I saw your hand go up earlier. Oh, Michelle, you are muted.
I was having trouble with the raised hand, lower hand function. I suppose I can make a motion incorporating the recommendations from the design review committee regarding the windows and looking into moving that canopy from the side to the back, as well as the changes for that front, that's side door towards the front, you know, recessing the brick to indicate that there was at one time a door there. Did I get everything?
You did on my list, so great job. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Mike Sandberry.
Thank you, Mr. Sandberry. Any further discussion? Right. Mr. Musson, please call roll and announce the results.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dryer?
Yes.
Mr. Sandberry?
Yes.
Dr. Williams? Oh, I'm sorry, she's recusing. And Ms. Trapp.
Yes.
I'm sure the
Excuse
motion
me.
passes.
Excuse me, this is Councilwoman Gray. I've been
Oh.
here, but I've been having some major technical difficulties. So I've been here for a little bit, but I just got in.
Okay.
So,
So
yes.
you're call-in user too. I guess we'll take your vote. You vote yes?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing your project move forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Madam President. I have to go to Madam Chairman. I have to go to a meeting, so I apologize.
Okay. Thank you,
All right.
Council,
Thank
for
you.
letting us know. Thank you. We'll move on to our next applicant, located 10319 Clifton Boulevard, window replacement.
Hi, good morning. This is Michelle McHugh. My wife Stephanie is not able to join for another commitment for work, but I will be doing the presentation.
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's time today. I know you have a lot of other presentations as well, so I'll work through this and answer any questions that you have at the end. So the first slide that you see here is just an aerial overview. Our house is actually located in the left upper hand corner. You can see it's covered by the tree canopy, so you can't really see it, but that is where we are located on the corner of West 104th and Clifton Boulevard. Next slide. And the next slide is just giving a brief overview of the scope of the work. So we will be replacing 11 windows in our third story finished attic area. All the removal of the original wood window sashes, parting and exterior stops, and storm windows and frames. Interior casing will remain as it is. We will install almond in and out vinyl windows with half screens. The windows on the Clifton and 104, so it'd be your north side and the west side, which I'll go through the photos. Those will all have sash grids between the glass of the windows, and I will show you those windows on the next few sheets. And they are 7 total windows that will have sashes. The grid will be 11/16 of an inch with contour profile, which again, I will show you on page 10 of the brochure. And then the black aluminum trim coil will be used to seal around the window on the exterior. Now, again, I just want to say this is 1.5 to 2 inches of the jab. And then the return to the trim board is 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. The exterior capping in black will essentially cover the space where the existing storm window frames currently are, and I'll show you a photo of what that would look like at the end. Okay, next slide, you're there. So this is the front view of our house. We are the house here on the corner. You can see the 3 windows at the top. Next slide. The next slide is just the front of the street, the view that we look out to, which is, this is the house across the street. Next slide. This is just a view from across the street to the front of our house. Again, you can see the trees cover most of what you can see on the exterior as you're going by. Next slide. This is the side of our house going along West 104th. Next slide. So this starts to go into showing you the windows. So we have windows 3, 1, 2, and 8, and then the south side. So this is the west side, 1, 2, 3, and 8. And you can see also an interior shot of each one of these windows. These are the original windows. They're really, really bad shape. All of the outside elements do come in. 4 and 5, this is the back south that shows you the windows, and then the interior photo of what those windows look like currently. This is the east side and the windows of what they currently look like. And this is the front side, which is 3 windows, the north side, and this is currently on the inside of what they look like. I do want to, if we could go back, let me make sure. Go down one slide. So if, up one slide. Right there. Okay, so if you see interiors 1 and 2, they have these little designs in them. We have looked to get those designs, however, they do not make those anymore. So that is why we're going with the square sashes. And we'll also, there are 2 other windows on this west side. They do not have any sashes or any pattern in the top. We are adding the sashes so that it can, you know, look aesthetically pleasing across the whole side. If you could go down, next slide. This again is just showing you currently what the windows look like from the outside. Next slide. This now shows you what the window would look like, and then this is showing just the black coil, if you can see this black dark edge line around. So, and the reason for that, so let me go a little bit further, is that in our next phases, we'll be painting all of our trim, this wood trim around that is currently a dark green. We will be transferring all of our trim to a black. So we wanted to make the top stand out where all the design is and things like that. So we wanted to make that black pretty noticeable around there. Next slide. This is what the new windows will look like with the sashes. So this will be on 7 windows. This is the north windows, and the west windows will have the sashes. The back, south, and the east side will not have the sashes in the windows. Next slide. This is just the overall quote of proposal. And so I'm a CPA, so I just like to talk about numbers a little bit. So we did get 3 quotes. Overall, we did get what it would look like vinyl and what the cost would look like for a wood composite. Home Depot was our one. It was about $14,000 for the vinyl, and you add about $250 extra for each wood window. We got a quote from Pella. It was around $22,000 for the vinyl, at about $500 per window for the wood composite. And ultimately, we went with Window Universe. Our original quote was $9,878. That was for white vinyl. We have changed to almond, which brings the price to $10,494. And to get wood composite would change that price to $14,250, approximately 44% price increase. So if you want to go through these slides, this is their actual brochure, and it shows you what the windows will look like. Obviously, the one shown here is just showing you the wood composite. The windows are exactly the same, whether it's wood composite or vinyl. We have just chose to go with vinyl for the top. And then, so the brochure, I'm not going to walk through it all the way. I mean, obviously, you can see it just goes through what the windows will look like, you know, what their product is, you know, how the windows are made, where the grids show, things like that. And that is all I have.
I'm sure you're muted.
Sure, yeah.
Sorry. Thank you for the presentation. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We will move on next to Design Review Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Historic West Cleveland Design Review, Historic West Cleveland Design Review Committee on September 20th. There was no quorum, but the committee members present discussed the window color should match the existing windows, which was a tan color. And they questioned if the aluminum coil around the windows would impact the decorative trim around the top of the house. And they discussed the composite or alternative window materials on the preferred for the primary facades, which would, since it's a corner house, would be the front and side.
Thank you. For that, landmark staff review recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff is generally supportive of the proposal as long as the windows aren't white, which it sounds like it's the case, like they're going to be almond. We'd also like to see the muntin patterns and configuration match the existing windows, which are to be replaced. Also had some concerns about the metal coil stock being proposed, just like some more details about where exactly that's going to be installed and how it will be sealed and terminated at the different points.
Okay. Do you want, I can comment if you would like. So could you go back one slide right there? Exactly. Okay. So when we met with the design review committee, there was a little confusion. So what it came up with about the black. So when we were discussing, it was almost proposed that they thought the black would cover all this green you see around the wood trim. That is not the case. So just that very little edging around the window where the, let me go back to mine. I'm sorry. I'll go back here to my overview real quick. That is, that will cover where the existing storm windows were. So it's about at 1.5 to 2 inches to cover the jab. And then return to the trim board is approximately 1/2 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch. So it's a very small that goes around that window where the existing storm window was. And the reason being, I mean, I'm open to going with, I think the rest of them, the first 2 floors are in the same color almond. We are open to that. We wanted to propose the black because the screen will no longer be black. So we really wanted to accentuate the very top of the house and all of its intricate details that it has. So that's why we wanted to go with black. So it kind of made that aesthetic look nice around the top of the house where it showcases all of the, you know, original aesthetic that they have on the house.
Okay. Mr. Musson, does that answer your question or do you have additional?
Yeah, I guess I'm still, so is it going to be 2 to 3 inches wide, or is that the return into the like the window pocket where the 2 to 3 inches
is? So you see right now on this photo, see that little green right on the outside where the storm window is, like the tiny, yes, that will be black then.
So is there actual structure there, or is that, I would have thought that would kind of typically have been removed when the, like that looks like filler, that the storm window, I guess part of that system.
Yeah, so they're removing the storm windows and that black trim will replace that around there. It's a very little, it's like the exact measurements are at 1.5 inches to 2 inches.
Yeah, I feel like a section or a cut through plan of one of the sides of the window would be helpful, just to understand where, like, you know, what's typically it's just a window replacement in a former opening. So I'm not quite sure if some of that storm system is being left behind, or some of the framing.
The
I
entire
just
storm
can't visualize
system,
it.
the entire storm system will be removed, and I'll go back up to what it says here. Hold on. So they'll be removing the original window sashes, the parting and exterior stops, and storm windows and frames. The interior casing is to remain.
So it sounds like these are jams, like jam extensions, basically.
Yeah. Yes.
And it will be the perpendicular to the window, just for the return to the face board of the trim board.
Yes.
So I understand why you're doing it black, but is the original wood still there? And it will be maintained? Is there?
Yes, all that wood around the windows, the things, and then I can't tell if you see up at the top. So see how we have all the, you know, the wood going up and down and all that. So all of that green will be black. So we were kind of accentuating, you know, what the top will look. So if you go by the house, you're like really seeing the top of the house. So if you looked, there might be a bigger picture. Let's go. I'll look on my slides here to see if I can get you one that looks closer to the house here. So you can see the bottom windows. Okay, so if you go down a couple slides, I'll tell you. See, keep going, keep going. Let's see, there's one. Okay, so this might help us a little bit. So I know it's very small, but if you look on this first level here and you see around the window a little bit, that's a tan, like an almond color. So the rest of the windows, first 2 floors, have that almond color around as their little 1/2 to, you know, 2 inches around it. So instead of it being almond like the first 2 floors are, this will be black to match when all the green is painted black.
What's the material of the first and second floor?
The first and second floor are actually newer wood composite windows.
Okay, so it's an infill panel. I'm on Google Earth. It's an infill panel that is because of the renovation window, since the window is actually smaller than the original opening.
Yes.
Got it. That helps. I'm looking here. And what material is it currently on your first and second floor?
The first and second floor windows are actually the wood composite, and then on the outside it's vinyl, like the vinyl around that trim there.
So it's a vinyl
coil
infill coil versus the aluminum coil that's your
I believe it is. Actually, I should not say yes or no to that. I do not know.
Okay, no, that's fair. Okay. Mr. Musson, do you have any additional questions, or should I move on and open up the floor to the commission?
Oh, no, thank you, Madam Chair. You're good to move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I dove into some questions myself. So I'll open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Who would like to start us off? All right, well then I will continue with my questions. I think that is helpful, you know, that explanation. My personal recommendation is that you use a color similar to what you currently have to match the windows, so that at the time when you move forward with your renovation, all of those trim pieces, which I suspect is an aluminum coil that may be around your first and second floor, could get treated in the same way. And until then and now, you know, it is at least matches, not knowing the timing of your second phase, but at least all of those that trim pieces, if it is aluminum, could be painted and treated in the same way.
Okay.
Related to the diamond mutton patterns, it would be my preference also to match the original configuration of the muttons, which are the diamond or the grid patterns that are in the upper windows. But it looks like those have been lost throughout the rest of the house to the wood composite windows.
Yes, the diamond, we really love the diamond as well. And those windows are actually the ones that are the worst in the upper and the third floor, and they do not make a design pattern anymore between the windows. They only make the square sashes. So we did try to get the same type of pattern.
And all the manufacturers said the same thing?
Home Depot, Pella, and Window Universe.
And it looks like on the front of the house along Clifton, it is a grid, standard grid, and versus the diamond. So it's the diamonds are on the sides. Is that correct?
Yes, just those 2 windows only have the diamond. So what we have done then is all the windows along that west side will have the square sashes between the windows, and then the north side on those 3 windows where you currently see the squares, they'll also have the square sashes.
Okay.
So we're adding 2 more windows with sashes so that the west side looks consistent with each other.
So you have a rectangular grid pattern for your muttons on both north and west?
Yes.
Okay. That is helpful to know. I would say I do agree with staff's recommendation that you consider that the north and west, your primary elevations, typically we do not recommend or approve vinyl on primary elevations, which would be your north and the west. So I do think that a composite wood material or the wood composite would be better, at least on those two facades, so that you have that in upgraded and consistent materials across, all 3 floors. You've obviously made an investment in this house, and it would at least allow both the interior and the exterior to look the same. I don't have a problem with the plain vinyl on the east or the south elevations. But overall, I mean, I appreciate your willing to investment and your wanting to invest into your house and improve the window on the 3rd floor especially.
Can
So-
I make a couple comments real quick? So if we have to go with wood, we're not going to move ahead with the project because I'm not going to pay 44% more. This house was owner occupied for 80 years by the same owner that did not do improvements. So there are a plethora of improvements of high substantial dollars. So we have to think budget wise. So for me to spend 44% more on wood composite when our house is definitely canopied by trees that you can hardly see the house from the street, even right here on Clifton when you're driving by, I just don't see it as like beneficial for us. So, that's where I come to, how do we make our properties better in the city of Cleveland, but also being conscious of what the costs are. So, like I said, between wood and vinyl, there's a 44% increase just with Windows Universe. That's a higher increase between Home Depot and Pella. So when I talk about money, the wood composite's beautiful. I would love to have the wood composite. So, that's where we are, is if we can only do wood composite, then we can't move ahead with the project. So the windows will remain. And I just think that's sad,
No, I appreciate your, your feelings on this. We understand the situation you are in and your concerns. We also just have our standards that we have to try to align with. So it is a considerations on both sides, that we always try to think of the user, but also the district and the requirements there.
Can we also go back a few photos? Because I want to show you the house directly across that I see out the window that has all vinyl windows from where I can see.
Right, and we understand not everyone has followed the correct process, and we appreciate that you are coming to us for discuss this. And we have to look at each case by its own merit, but we do appreciate and understand that there's a lot of people who haven't done and followed the process that you are. So we appreciate that you are.
Yeah, because I was really wondering that. I'm like, how, when I walk down my street here on Clifton, there's no aesthetic. So this is a historical district, but there's no like real rhyme or reason or aesthetic. So they have vinyl windows, these ones don't. They have all vinyl windows, these ones don't. So I'm trying to understand, like, as we move forward with our other renovations and go through this process as well, what is the consistency then? So what is the path that we have to follow?
You are following the right path as you are right now, and we appreciate that you are following our process. Unfortunately, in the past, there's a lot of people who haven't, and that's what you see, the inconsistencies across your street. So we appreciate you, coming in and following the correct path to set that standard for others also.
Thank you.
So I'm going to continue on with questions and comments from the other commission members. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is a truly lovely house, and I'm glad to see that you're investing in this wonderful property. There's like kind of a half timber element. There's some Tudor elements here. And I think the diamond pattern window mullions are consistent with those Tudor elements, and I hate to lose them. You said you spoke to 3 different
Yes.
vendors. And I hate to, send you on some big shopping trip, but those were just the 3 that you spoke to? Because I was just wondering if, a little more digging around, a little more investigation might find somebody who can produce a diamond pattern onion.
Yes, I agree that we could go further. We've already been in this process for 3 months. That window right there has caused water damage into our 3rd floor down to our 2nd floor now. So it's caused additional, because the window is like literally you can like see like outside is coming in. So water has come into the 3rd floor, went down into the 2nd floor, which are both finished. So again, there's more repairs that we have to make. So, our first thought was, okay, maybe we can redo these windows, but then you start looking at the cost for that and it's outrageous. So, I mean, we've looked at 3. Our goal was not to reach out to go to any more because we want to get moving on this as winter approaches us.
Sure. Yes, that's truly understandable. I'm kind of, it's on a 3rd floor. It's obscured by trees part of the year. I'm almost inclined to go with the vinyl under a couple of situations. If there could be exterior applied mullions, diamond shaped mullions, and I feel pretty strongly that like an almond coiling would be preferable.
Okay.
And part of it is at some point, you say you're going to be painting some of that exterior trim black, but at some point, decision might be made to paint it a different color, and that might cause an undesirable contrast.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know what vendors are out there, but that would be an accommodation that I could make.
Okay. So yes, so we will switch to almond instead of the black coils. I'm completely fine with that. I'll write this down. And then if we needed to, we can double check to see if there's diamond. Again, we've went, Pella being the highest grade, one of the highest grade windows there are. Anderson as well. The rest of our windows are Anderson throughout the rest of the house.
Yeah,
we
and
can do a
Pella
double
does
check.
historic windows, so that's a good choice.
Yeah, Pella said that they do not make the window with the diamonds.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that feedback, Ms. Anderson. Other commission members, questions or comments? Any other questions or comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I guess I have a question, or I guess clarification.
Yes.
So it sounds like these windows are not filling the entire original window opening, and so our sight lines have decreased. Is that the consensus?
Is this question for me? I guess I'm not sure what you're asking.
I guess to everybody on the commission, is that how we understand as presented that the application is going to move forward? Or am I missing it?
Sorry, Mr. Sandberry, I was talking and I was muted. I think your statement is correct, that these are renovation style windows and the sight lines will be reduced some from the original wood window, but looks like they will maintain a similar sight line to the current storm window.
Okay. To the applicant, is that, and maybe you don't know the answer to this question, but have you gone this direction because of costs, or is this because this is a standard size window that they're replacing inside a non-standard opening? Is there a reason why we're not going to the full width of the opening?
I don't know if I'm going to answer this correctly, but I'll attempt to. Well, it wasn't about cost. It was when they came in, they did all the measurements and things, and these are like, okay, we're keeping the existing inside, so it's what fits within those windows that are currently there.
So it's a renovation style window versus a full removal of all the trim and weights, and then reinstallation of a new window. So it's working within the existing wood jambs and head and sill.
Yes, and also just so you are aware, there are lead in these casings that we're paying extra to have them remove all that lead safely and take that out. Because they did bring a kit and tested, so within the window. So that's also the other reason we like to move forward. We're trying to start a family. We'd like to get any lead that's around out.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Sandberry. Other questions or comments, or someone like to put forward a motion? Other questions or comments, or would someone like to put forward a motion? In the interest of time, can I ask someone to please put forward a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll put forward a motion. This is Mike Sandberry. I move to approve the windows as presented with the color recommendations and the recommendation that the north and west windows be a composite instead of a vinyl. Anything else I should add into that?
And one clarification, let's see, I'm sorry. Let me just check. Was that a recommendation on the material or a requirement? Just a recommendation to explore that?
I'm saying recommendation unless someone
I
feels strong.
agree with that. Then Ms. Anderson suggested the recommendation to explore the exterior applied diamond buttons versus the standard, I think it was 6 buttons, and submits the final materials then to staff.
The staff. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, so we have a motion with some recommendations. Do we have a second?
This is Alan. I just want to clarify that those are recommendations, not requirements.
Correct, they're recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll and announce the results.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberry,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you. Good luck with your project.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next applicant, located at 620 Frankfurt Avenue, Massari, exterior renovations. I'd like to welcome the applicant. Please feel free to unmute your mic, announce yourself, and tell us about your project.
Hello, this is Michael Corrala. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I'm the contractor for MEK Construction at 620 Frankfurt Avenue. We are proposing to reface the building with signs and some paint. We already went into review with the Landmark Commission a couple months ago. They approved everything. They just needed to see better drawings, renderings, which I think they might be on the last slide. That's the side view of the, no, yep, that's the side view of the building on the old front.
Michael, go ahead and run through everything that on the project here.
So we opened up the vestibule there. There used to be 3 old garage doors there. And the center one, we reopened to put a vestibule in there. And we proposed to put a new sign on the top there above the doors. And some, it's like metal artwork in those on the 2 sides of the new entrance. Which is on a slide coming up. That's the interior layout. There we go. So all the current brick, the red brick will be painted black. And then these are metal panels that are installed on the building. The last drawings didn't have good enough details on how the metal work was going to be installed to the building. Those are the metal samples that we will be, that's the metal we're using. I think it's an aluminum grade. And that'll be the new front door.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
I'm kind of confused. Like I think I just needed to show you guys the that one drawing of the how everything is getting mounted to the building.
Well, this is our first time reviewing it, so that is why we
Oh.
want to see everything. The committee itself hasn't had a chance. I think I'm sorry, the commission hasn't seen all the details. I believe you may have talked to the committee previously. So that's why we're going through it all. So this has been helpful, and we're now going to move on and hear what the committee, what their recommendations were. And we'll ask you some additional questions probably here in about 2 minutes.
All right. As far as the design review committee recommendations go, the Historic Gateway and Warehouse Districts Design Review Committee recommended approval. It's fairly utilitarian a brick building on an alley. They had some concerns with the blue color being presented and wanted to see a more neutral, natural color. They also suggested that the treatment on the front, like that the wood wrap the corner to add some interest on that west elevation and kind of give it a good place to terminate. They also suggested that maybe, but reading the wrong one. Yeah, I think we have the wrong slide up here. But yeah, those are the comments from the local committee. Hold on, we have a bit of a technical difficulty here.
That's the comment for the next.
Yeah, this is, sorry, that's for the, yeah. for the wrong one. They, the local committee at their September 20th meeting did recommend approval. They did want to see the elements on the front wrap the corner a little bit just to give it a place to terminate some, and some visual interest on that elevation. But generally utilitarian building, not a lot of concerns.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Thank
long
you.
as the, yeah, so long as we get the corrected sections, renderings, and materials, and samples be submitted.
Okay, and then landmark staff review. Is that also the landmarks review, or is that the committee still review?
No, thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair. We're looking at this building as a non-contributing building. It is on the back alley. It is the last unit. They are proposing to remove the fixtures that are on the side here as well. There is some brick detailing, but it looks to be a complete facade change. Concerns about the attachment and the treatment of the brick, make sure anything that's secured goes through mortar joints. Reopening the center is good. There is some concern about when you look at the interior layout, the opening of the vestibule and there being enough room, particularly for ADA. And then the materials, it's a complete, you can see that there's letter signs. I think they would have to come in with a separate permit for the sign versus the siding. These are all metal panels that are going to be attached to the side of the building. We would recommend approval at this time. And I think he had mentioned a potential mural on the west wall as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brunges. The applicant, you had a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so for the vestibule, there's only one door there, one set of doors. There won't be two. Yeah, in that drawing, it shows two for some reason. I think initially, these are like old drawings. So initially we were gonna do two doors there, but we're only doing one. So that'll be door, the first one closest to the hallway there. And the opening will be 8 feet on those doors. So 2 4-foot doors will give plenty of ADA compliance there.
I would just say when you submit your drawings for your permits that you make sure that everything's accurate because that will come back.
Correct. I have new drawings that are out. I just haven't been able to get them to you. And we are working with someone in the city, I think, for the mural on the side of the building. The owners of the building is speaking to someone in the mural department, or can think of who the person is.
Tara probably is who you've been speaking to at the city.
What was the name again? It kind of broke up.
Am I muted? No. Tara is her first name that you've probably been speaking to at the city related to the mural. And I think
Yeah, I
this
think
statement is once you decide if you are moving forward with the mural that you'll have to return for that for final approval along with your signage itself. Unless you are also asking for approval of the signage at this time, but if you are, we would require more detail on that signage. So I would recommend returning for your signage and the mural at a future date.
okay.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Who would like to start us off? Mr. Sandberry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The black brick, is that going to be the existing brick that's painted black, or are you putting new brick?
No, it'll be the existing brick.
Okay.
It's all been tuck pointed and repaired where there was some, if you can see on the bottom right of that picture, there was a hole in the brick there that was all tuck pointed and repaired to match.
Okay. Are you intending to paint the full facade first and then apply the panels, or are you only painting the parts that are exposed?
No, the full facade first, then installing the panels.
Personally, I probably recommend against the entire facade and just the portions that are exposed, just so that there is some breathability in the building. I would also recommend a paint that is approved for this kind of application to allow the brick and the mortar to breathe and let water and the air vapors pass through that barrier. It'll help the brick with its longevity. The other question I have is about the front doors. The doors look like they're solid metal panel doors with details. The side lights, is that going to be, it looks like it's glass. Is that a frosted glass or a clear glass?
There won't be any side lights in the door. It should just be one solid panel for security.
I'm reading that as a side light. Never mind. And then what is the material on the sides of the doors that will infill the rest of the opening?
That will be a granite material.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sandberry. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we could go back to the exterior photo of the building. Thank you. I'm in agreement with Mr. Sandberry. I think as little of the brick as possible to be painted would be the way to go. You mentioned that the brick has already been pointed, and they're subtle, but there's some nice, decorative elements in this brick. I think that would be somewhat obscured by painting it, and I think it would be better to again keep the brick breathable. Yeah, I just think the brick is a lot more attractive than painting it all black. I'm bored with what Mr. Sandberry said, and otherwise I think it's going to be an improvement over what's there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I will move on to my questions, and just sorry to harp on the painting the brick. Are you painting just the front elevation, or are you painting the side elevation and rear elevation that are currently white also? So will the entire building be painted, or just this front area and the sides will remain white?
Well, the sides, we were going to wait to see. I mean, eventually we're going to paint the sides a neutral color if we're not able to put a mural on the entire side of that building. But yes, we will be painting a neutral color if we don't decide to get a mural on the side of the building. It's not approved.
Okay.
Because there are some some graffiti tags on that building from the previous owners that need to be addressed.
I think at this point, I would submit that paint color with the proposal for the mural and signage, because that we will need for our records.
So I'll submit that with the signage paint color.
We will need, I think at this time, we're only commenting on the front or reviewing the front elevation that's being proposed. Is that correct, Mr. Musson?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so if you do paint the sides or want to paint the sides, we'd ask you to return and talk to staff of the color that you select for both the side and the rear, along with your signage and any mural. I would agree with the staff's comments that although this building does have some great little details, so trying to install any installations of your panels should be within the mortar joints and not into the face brick itself. The metal panel facade here, or the front signage panel, I would agree with staff. So I think it would be nice if you could wrap the corner so that it doesn't feel like just a facade itself. It starts to integrate the full building. So I'd recommend wrapping that back maybe 12 inches so that you do have that engagement on the side. And
We had intentions to do that. Sorry to cut you off, but I think the architect didn't include those in these drawings that were submitted to you.
okay, so if you could submit to staff the final details of that signage panel also. And then I would also recommend, or agree with the recommendation that you paint only the parts of the brick on this front face that are exposed so that it does have that breathability. Finally, the decorative panels on in the lower area is that a segmented panel or what material is that? Is it a metal panel?
Yeah, it's an aluminum segmented panel that just kind of pieces back together. There's a track that holds everything up, and then it all clips into place.
Okay, so once again, just as you install those clips, to make sure they're installed in the mortar joints and not the brick face itself.
Right.
But overall, I support improvements to this building and just encourage you to stay within trying to maintain as much of the existing brick as possible with these improvements.
You got it.
Other questions and comments from the commission, or would someone like to make a motion? Other questions or comments, or would someone like to make a motion? Mr.
I wanted
Sandberg.
to touch back on someone mentioned that there was blue in the panels. I think it's just the way it came out. It's supposed to be like a black and gold mixture on those panels, on the two side panels.
Yeah,
Squares.
I apologize. The blue, our slides got a little mixed up, so I was reading comments for the wrong project.
Oh.
So yeah, disregard that. The local committee approved, they just wanted to see corrected sections, renderings, materials, and samples to be submitted to staff. So disregard everything else they said.
Thank you.
So Mr. Sandberry, would
Yes,
you like to?
thank you, Madam Chair. I will make a motion to approve the application as presented for the front facade, I believe it's the south facade of the building, with the recommendation that the applicant paint only the brick that is exposed with a paint that's suitable to allow the brick to breathe, and to return to the commission with any other painting, any other proposed murals or painting on the other facades at a later date. And to secure the metal panels into the mortar joints of the facade instead of the face of the brick.
Can I suggest adding wrapping the metal panels around the corner so that they're engaged?
The applicant indicated that that was the intent, so to submit architectural drawings that show that.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Sandberry, for that motion. Ms. Anderson, would you like to second that?
I have a question. Is this a suggestion or is this part of the approval?
Is this a recommendation or a requirement? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Is this a requirement or a recommendation?
Mr. Sandberry?
This is the requirement to wrap the corners with the front facade.
And your other items, would those be requirements?
Oh,
or
those are requirements. My apologies.
All right. Yes, I will second if they are requirements.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Anderson, for the second. Any further discussion? Great, not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll and announce the results.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberry,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you and good luck with your project.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day.
You too.
Take care.
We'll move on to our next applicant located 5218 Detroit Avenue renovation.
Hello, my name is Nicole Davis and I am the architect of record for this project. So this project is located right on Detroit Avenue, 5218. We are, I guess go to the next slide, please. The next slide. Thank you. So we are located right on Detroit Avenue between 54th Street, West 54th Street and West 52nd Street. We are in the Historic Landmark District, although we are a non-contributing building. Please go to the next slide. We are taking the old Brett's Cabinet showroom and manufacturing warehouse and turning it into an artisan community, much like the Van Aken shopping district that was done a couple of years ago. So it will be a multi-tenant shopping area where the tenants are open air to each other, and there will be common space for patrons to come and grab lunch and sit and do a little bit of shopping. Next slide. So again, this is our district. We are in local retail. We are not asking for any rezoning. We are an appropriate use for this area. Next slide. We are proposing to do some changes to the site. Currently, the parking lot is not striped, and I think it's just more a wear and tear issue. So we are proposing to stripe our parking against our building. We will have curbs to protect the building from cars, kind of showing where our dumpster enclosure will be, and then trying to activate the front of our building to get more walking patrons. This area has gone through a lot of changes recently. There's a lot of new homes, a lot more people that are living in this area and walking to and from. So we are proposing to put an outdoor deck space on the front of it, as well as bicycle parking, and just really activating that street presence. Next slide. The interior of the building will house several tenants. We have 2 spaces that are unspoken for at this moment. We will have 3 kitchens, a coffee shop, a chocolatier, a high fashion sales floor, flowers, and then a nail salon and a refill store for soaps and whatnot. And this is the layout that we're working with. We'll go to the next slide. So the exterior of the building, we are proposing to make some changes, although we are keeping most of the integrity of the building intact. Keeping the wood sign that is, well, we're replacing the wood sign that is there because it was far past its appropriate weathering. But we are planning to replace it with another wood sign, painting that white, taking the storefronts and windows and doors and painting them white as well. We are proposing to remove one window to add access to the space and appropriate egress. And then we are asking to paint the building a blue to kind of go with the vibrancy of the neighborhood. So this is just a quick rendering of that. Next slide. We will have the name of the market is El Corazon. So that will be the main signage on the front facade. We are planning on doing more of like a directory signage on this side wall, as well as looking at potentially putting a mural on that side wall as well. That That's it.
Thank you for the presentation. We'll move on then to Design Review Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was another slide that got mixed up with the other ones. So this project was reviewed by the Historic West Cleveland Design Review Committee on September 20th. And there was no quorum, but the committee members present did discuss the concern on the color blue presented and a preference for a more natural brick color, appropriateness of the signage, and a suggestion to wrap the wood sign around the corner for interest, more or some landscaping to soften the front in front of the proposed patio, and unification of the storefront colors, which was included in this presentation.
Great, thank you. And landmark staff review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So projects like this one are a little frustrating for staff. The proposal you saw today is the same one that was presented to the Historic West Cleveland Design Review Committee last week. The next day after that meeting, there was an online article about the business that featured a photo showing much of the proposed work already completed and lots of signage in the window. While work being done in the midst of a review and without a permit is frustrating enough, the signage that has been installed doesn't even show up on the proposed plans that we reviewed, that were reviewed by the Design Review Committee, and did not see those today. Staff has some concern about the work that's being done and is proposed to be done, but before we can really respond, we'd like some clarification about what is being proposed so we can look at this as a whole, in addition to getting feedback from the zoning folks to see if this will require a variance for signage. Based on what has been presented today, staff questions the rebuilding and use of the current wooden slat signage panel, which appears to have been rebuilt in the image you see now. There's an ample signage panel already built into the architecture of the building that has 4 gooseneck lights extending out through it. Thought, why not remove the inappropriate slatted sign panel and utilize the natural signage panel above it? That would also leave some room for an awning, which could be very helpful considering that the building faces south. The blue color has also been a source of concern for the staff as it's not appropriate for the area of the building represented here. We're not sure where the idea that the building being non-contributing came from, as Nicole said. So curious who provided that determination, as the building certainly does contribute to our local historic district. All that being said, staff would recommend that this item is tabled until the applicant can produce a comprehensive proposal that includes all of the proposed signage, both on the building and in the windows. Curious, with so much yellow cake signage in the windows currently, if the other tenants will expect to have additional signage or how that will be handled. It sounds like there's going to be a directory sign, which is, I think certainly more appropriate for this many tenants. But, want to make sure that everybody is on the same page there. So I guess just if the applicant is unwilling to consent to tabling, staff would recommend denial of the current proposal as presented.
All right, thank you for that staff recommendation. Would the applicant like to respond before I open up the floor to the commission? I see your hand up.
Oh, sorry, I had it up originally, but yeah, sure, I can respond. So the yellow cake is currently occupying the building, based on her lease ending at her previous location. She will not actually habitate this front space in the permanent build out. I also was unaware that she had quite so much signage in her windows. But that is not the intent for the final design. We really wanted to keep those storefronts clear of signage because it's a shared space, and any signage would be on the wood slat sign that has been rebuilt and the directory sign on the east side once the building turns back.
Okay. Thank you
I
for
don't
that.
know how to address the blue color. It was done against my recommendations.
Okay, well, let's continue on with the review and we will, I'm sure, have a few more questions for you. So I'll open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Mr. Dryer?
I just want to clarify, so the blue's already been painted on the building or just the front of the building?
It has already been painted on the majority of the building.
Okay, and so there is a tenant in there, so do you need a certificate of occupancy? Do you have that?
They're correct. We do have a certificate of occupancy currently.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dryer. Other questions and comments from the commission? Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to see that it's not being painted black or gray. But I'm in agreement that the blue is not really fitting. I mean, part of the brick has not been painted. I kind of hate to paint brick without really some careful consideration of what's going on there. So those are my initial comments, and I'm inclined to agree with staff. I think that there's probably a lot of questions here that aren't answered yet. So, you know, it may be best to table this at this point, but those are just my initial comments here. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I do see we have someone from Northwest Neighborhoods, and Ms. Kovar.
Hi, everybody. Chelsea Kovar, Director of Economic Development for Northwest Neighborhoods. I am also the Director of the Gordon Square Arts District Special Improvement District. We were really bummed out to see that this building got painted blue, especially with no approvals from this committee, being within our historic district. They are right outside the special improvement district, but it is something that we would like to include in our future iterations of the district. Not a fan of the blue. It does not go with the architectural integrity of the rest of the district, and it wasn't done well either. So I would really like to talk to the property owner. I was not aware that this was a bigger plan. We thought Yellow Cake had acquired the shop and that was their property now. So hearing that it's a completely different entity and a completely different plan, I would really like to talk to the owner and the architect and talk about these plans internally at Northwest Neighborhoods. And coming to us first would have prevented you coming to this meeting and getting tabled several times, because we could have provided the guidance to make sure that everything was ready prior to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kovar. So hearing the overall feedback from the committee, staff, and the local CDC, and I would recommend that we table this project and allow some internal offline discussions with the CDC and or staff to see how we can meet the client's goals, but align with the districts and the buildings needs related to the district. So Nicole, we would need your permission to table on this project. It is not a requirement, it is your choice, but if you do proceed, I think you can probably feel the direction that it may or may not go here related to that. But if you do give us permission to table, then it allows you time to talk to each one of the parties to figure out the appropriate way for this to move forward.
Can I ask a question before I?
Of course.
So we did submit to the city for our zoning, and they said, we went to our design review district, but this is the first time I'm hearing about the Northwest district. Is that something different than our Near West review?
They're the Community Development Corporation, so they are the overall, the group that is related to this entire district here. They're not, they have economic and elements related to the district versus just the design itself. The near west is just looking at the design itself.
It's just, okay. I guess I just wasn't sure like where I would have found that information.
And actually, I don't know if it's on the GIS maps to indicate that, but in your initial submission, they should have mentioned that to you.
Okay.
But we do think it would warrant a conversation with northwest neighborhoods and or staff to allow us to come up with a solution to meet the requirements of the district, but also allow the tenant to move forward with their master plan for this property.
So yes, let's table the discussion versus moving forward.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me? This is Mike Lasky.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm really sorry. I had to leave and then I just came back, and I came back, I think maybe 2 or 3 minutes too late. Is there a brief way to say what the issues are so that we can maybe answer table or no table, or am I wasting your time to ask everybody to repeat everything?
No, I think a brief summary is that the design review committee and the CDC, along with landmark staff, have a color with the blue, with the color that has been recommended for painting the building. It is also looked not appreciated that it was painted before any approvals, to put it bluntly. There's also concerns with the signage plan for the building, or the lack of a signage plan, because there are overall signage requirements and maximums, and currently the amount of signage that is already installed in the window area may actually exceed it, and would preclude you from having additional signage on the front and the side of the building. So an overall master plan needs to be presented in more detail to allow us to understand your approach for the multi-tenant use of this building. And then finally, the signage panel that we're looking at, the wood signage panel is not recommended by staff, and I would echo that. We'd recommend re-establishing the signage panel within the masonry and using that for your main signage versus the installation of this wood signage bands that has been placed.
So tell me the difference between recommendation and approval.
You have to get a motion to get approval. So these are our comments, and which could lead to the requirements or recommendations in a approval. But we are not there yet. I don't think anyone feels comfortable until there's some more conversations with the Northwest Neighborhood CDC and or staff of the overall approach of the building versus the design. What is currently known, that was the approach of this building to what we've just learned through this presentation.
So I hear you about the signage. The color issue, though, I'm not sure how that gets resolved. I mean, is this just a matter of opinion? We don't like the color?
I think that's why we want to have some offline conversation with you related to the color and your overall approach for the building, along with the signage. Would be good to have a comprehensive conversation about that.
Okay, when would we be tabled to?
We have meetings every 2 weeks, so if you can have your offline discussions and the agenda has room, you could appear as soon as in 2 weeks, or 4 weeks is the next meeting after that, or every second and fourth Thursday, I should say. It's not always 4 weeks, but
okay.
All right. So I do see Mr. Dreyer, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I may be splitting hairs, but and the impact would be the same, but I'm going to suggest that instead of tabling, we just deny it. It seems like this project it's prematurely in front of us, I think, And yet it's work has been done, so it's also pastime. So I do want to mention, I think the brick was painted before. I mean, I think so that part, but that part can be remedied, I think, by painting it again. Yeah, but anyway, that's what I would suggest. If people think that's a good way to go, I'm glad to make the motion.
Well, I would ask, is that a motion or is it just a discussion item?
Right now, it's a discussion item.
If it gets denied, what's the process of bringing it back before you? Because I feel like a denial is worse than tabling it.
Yes, it sends a stronger message, which is why that's what I'm suggesting.
Does it legally change any of our paperwork? Like in my experience, a denial is different than just tabling it.
You can resubmit, and so, but it sounds to me like there's a lot of work that's left to be done before a project like this would come in front of us. And so either way, it gives you a chance to get that work done. But I'm saying to my fellow commission members that I think it's a stronger message if we deny rather than simply just table. But right, I'm just looking for people's thoughts on that right now.
Mr. Brunges, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Dryer, if you make your motion and it gets seconded, that would keep it going. And if it does not get seconded, that would kill the motion at that time. And then they would have to reconsider the motion. So if you want to propose it, do it. However, I don't know what paperwork we're talking. We don't have an application for a building permit in our system for this location. So it doesn't exist. So it would just be having to rethink, and actually just, if it's a denial, it restarts.
That brings up a whole different thing. The architect said they had an occupancy permit.
We could not find one in the system, so I would ask that they produce that as well.
Yeah, I mean, so again, it sounds like there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. Anyway.
Why would it not be occupiable? I'm just curious. I mean,
it can't be occupied. You do not apply for a permit for the new occupant.
Have you done work inside?
Yes, but what we have is.
So theoretically, you would have needed a permit to do that work, and then that would lead to a certificate of occupancy. Once the work has been inspected and it's done and it's occupied.
So changing our use from a cabinet shop to a different retail sales use causes a new certificate of occupancy to be needed?
It's not about that. It's about the work you've done inside.
Well, I'm sorry, I hear that, but I'm talking about the certificate of occupancy issue that was just raised. So someone's looking for a certificate of occupancy.
You have a new occupant. They need a certificate of occupancy, as will probably all of your vendors in that area as well for each one of their shops. And that's something I think you need to talk with Building and Housing and figure out what their process is, because that we are design review. They will be doing all that on that end.
So a conversation with Northwest Neighborhoods and since they are the community development services could probably assist you in that. Ms. Kovar, I'm sorry, if you'd like to, I see your hand up.
I know that this isn't zoning, but also with the plans that they have shown to take up the parking lot and add an additional building, we're going to have issues with going through zoning that need to be addressed too. So those are things that before you come back and present again, whether this is tabled or a denial, you're going to need to make sure that all of those are remedied and looked at as well. Because that's going to be another hitch, I believe.
What do you mean another building?
I'm not following.
It says this future marketplace, like you're bringing out You're bringing out some more building?
No, that's the existing building.
Okay, but you are eliminating some parking?
No, it's remaining the same.
Okay. It looked like you were eliminating some parking, and for that, I would be concerned about the zoning ordinances.
We took out a loading dock, but not parking.
With overviewing, like reviewing your whole entire site plan for the presentation, I would get guidance and make sure that this is in compliance as well, so this doesn't get kicked back for this. That was the only other suggestion that I had.
Okay, Ms. Williams, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to echo some of the comments that were made earlier, because it just seems to me that several of the parties involved have not communicated their intentions clearly to other parties that are involved, especially in the surrounding community. So I think it would be helpful if there could be those offline discussions. And then, as you said, every two weeks or 4 weeks from now, perhaps we could review this again. But at this point in time, I think it might be wise to reject the proposal as submitted, or deny the request that's come before us today, if that's the language that I should use.
Is that a motion?
That was just a comment, and echoing earlier comments, because we've just been discussing this for a while. But I think, again, there are offline discussions that need to take place before it could come back before the commission.
So the difference between a denial and a tabling is if you are disapproved at this time, I should say, a motion of disapproval, or a tabling is if you're disapproved, you'll have to make changes to the proposal before you can reappear. Correct, Mr. Musson and Mr. Brunges? And how would that, to answer Nicole's question about does it affect their zoning review at all, and the B number that's already been issued related to the application?
I'm looking at a cell right now. I don't see anything under this permanent parcel number or address in Acela. So I don't know that they have any pending paperwork, but yeah, typically if a permit application is made and then we make a denial, we would cancel that permit application, then they'd reapply. Since I'm not seeing one, I think they could just reapply through us again with, new or changed information. You can't just apply with the same thing over and over without any changes. So I think if we could have that offline meeting that's been discussed between our staff and then Chelsea at Northwest Neighborhoods, I think we could make some progress, and then get you back on an agenda when you're ready and there's room on an agenda.
And to whom did you submit the zoning application?
I think I submitted it directly to Adam Davenport for an informal review, and that kicked in our design review and then kicked us to you guys. So I have not we have not submitted for building and housing yet.
Okay, we'll take what you have here. I think we're going to need a better site plan and all that. I think what's going to happen is you're not going to have enough parking spaces due to the amount of users that you're going to have in there. So you're probably going to need a variance for parking. That's just off the top of my head, but we can help submit that to our zoning specialists to make sure that you have something, at least something concrete to deal with. But in essence, you're probably this is going to feel like you're restarting from scratch, because you really are, because we're way too far into this process and we shouldn't be here this quickly, especially since the work's been done. Or most of the work has been done. Has the patio been installed?
No.
Okay.
The work that has been done is a minute percentage of the total work.
Okay.
So it's not that we're not so far down. All we've done is change some lighting and cosmetic issues so that the yellow cake could move into the space where it was losing its former space.
Can apply for interior permits separately from exterior. So if you want to start moving forward with some of your improvements while you are going through our review process, this way you're not fully held up in doing everything, I would recommend that you consider that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams, I do see your hand up. Was it still up from previously, or did you have additional comments?
So I'll take the hand down. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sandberry.
Madam Chair, I was not aware that Mr. Lasky is an owner of this project, and I don't know the ownership or entities associated with this project, but I do have an active project with one of Mr. Lasky's companies. I may need to recuse myself. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, then I would say, do we still have?
Is Mr. Lasky, are you part of the building ownership? Is that, can we confirm that?
Not, but I will be. And I think if Mr. Sandberry and I know Michael from other projects, feel that this might be a conflict, you should consider that I am part of the project.
Thank you, Mike. I will recuse myself then.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sandberry, for making us aware of that. All right, so then I think we're at the point that I'd ask someone to put a motion forward so that we can continue moving this project forward. Mr. Dryer.
I will move to deny the certificate of appropriateness.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, not seeing any, then Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dryer?
Yes.
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
And Ms. Trott?
No.
Right, Madam Chair, the motion passes by a vote of 3-1 with one recusal.
So you have been disapproved. Please reach out to staff and they can help you work through some of the logistical items that we have seen and discussed here. Along with, we recommend you reaching out to Ms. Kovar from Northwest Neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thanks.
That concludes our certificates of appropriateness. We will now move on to meeting minute approvals. There were 4 meeting minutes that were circulated for review. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the meeting minutes?
Madam Chair, I just want to point out that in addition to the 4, standard meeting minutes, there was also a public hearing meeting minutes for July 25th, 2019. So there are 5 documents or sets of minutes that need approved because we handled the public meeting and the public hearing separately for that same date.
Thank you for clarifying that.
To keep it confusing.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on the 5 documents? All right, would someone like to put forward a motion? We are shorter on people.
I move that we approve the 5 documents.
Thank you. Do you mind just stating the 4 that are on the screen, and then Mr. Mussing can remind us which date had the public hearing minutes?
Be meeting approvals from February 14th, 2019, June 27th, 2019, July 11th, 2019, July 20th, 25th, 2019, and the
Public hearing meeting minutes.
Public
from
Yeah,
hearing meeting, yeah.
Public hearing. Yeah, and those were also from July 25th, 2019.
So we have a motion of, for approval. Do we have a second?
Madam Chair, I second the motion.
Thank you for the second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Mr. Musson, please call roll.
All right, Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberry,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trapp.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
All right, we'll move on to administrative reports.
As far as the Secretary's report, on October 6th, we have a joint meeting of the Planning and Landmarks Commission to review the Irishtown Bend project conceptually. You should have all received a notification for the 9 o'clock meeting, and we'll be sharing a link which, when one is created. Planning is taking care of kind of the creating the link and the administration of that meeting. So the rules may be slightly different, even though we'll be seeing it in concept. Planning Commission votes on concepts, so you'll be asked to take a vote at the end. When a motion is made, which you're welcome to vote, or if you're more comfortable abstaining, you can do that too. Then I guess following that meeting, our next regularly scheduled meeting is October 12th. And it sounds like Madam Chairwoman and I will be sitting before City Council on Tuesday, October 10th. So if anyone wants to tune in and watch TV 20, Landmarks will be using the opportunity to share what we do and what we accomplished in 2023. That is all I have.
All right, and can you remind us, is the meeting on the 6th in person or virtual?
I believe it's hybrid, so I guess dealer's choice. But yeah, once that link is created, I'll share those details, and then I assume 5:14 if you want to come in person. But again, I can confirm that once we know more.
All right, thank you. And I think that is it for today. Then we will adjourn our meeting and look forward to seeing everybody next Friday.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.